Hello, beautifuls. Welcome to Intuitive Conversations with Christine Keeland and Renee Kane. I'm Christine.
I'm Renee. As best friends and intuitives, we have fantastic conversations in all things spiritual. We have been inspired to share these conversations with you.
Hello, gorgeous.
Hello. Another wonderful day together. I'm excited.
Yes. Welcome back to the podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, so we appreciate that.
Welcome.
And so much to talk about, so many things we've been thinking about. It's summer here for us.
Yeah.
And we were looking at self-judgment. What we think, what we create, and how we obsess. We were actually talking about obsessive thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we have them, and what do we do with them?
Yeah. And probably one of my strongest obsessive thoughts is weight.
Yeah.
It's just like I keep thinking, why you weigh so much, and why did you gain this weight, and whatever questions you filter around through your own brain. But the more focus I seem to put on that, the harder or the bigger the struggle to not have the weight. Where in the past, when I never thought about it, I didn't have an issue. So what is that obsessiveness
I don't know.
that I have anyway?
And it's a constant thought for me. And,
yes.
Realistically, it actually, I would say, how does it interfere with my life? So the constant thinking, right? Mm-hmm. It's not constant 24/7, but there's enough of my thought process going into how much I weigh. Can I lose 2 pounds? If I lose 2 pounds, I put, it's back and forth the yo-yo, what I look like in my clothes. Mm-hmm. When it was never a thought, was never, I used to worry that I used to feel bad I used to feel self-conscious because I was underweight. I feel a little self-conscious now. It's you have that dialogue in your own head, right?
Yeah, you do. It is your own head dialogue.
Their own dialogue in your own head. So, it's like, what do we do with these obsessive thoughts? Where do they come from? How do we readjust them?
Yeah, how do we...
And again, it's like just catching them. You just have to catch it. But really, why is that important? Why do we put importance on our obsessive thoughts?
Yeah.
Whatever they mean. For you and I right now, it's weight.
Yeah. We're looking at that.
And
and I think
not liking change.
Yeah. And I think
I like a lot of change, but this one I didn't like so much.
Not so much. But I think about too how in previous time when I would get dressed in the morning or to go somewhere, I just put on what I liked and I just wore it. And whatever felt appropriate for the day. And it feels like now when I look at what I'm going to wear for the day, it's more about, what's going to hide the role, or what's going to, and it's a completely different thought process than it used to just be, I want to wear pink today, and I'd wear something pink and put it on. And now I'm like, I can't wear that because I got flabby arms, or I can't do that because it's like I've sabotaged myself into thinking that I'm less than I ever have been. And in reality, that's just...
And if I look at it, I'm a much happier person, right? I don't have the, all the things that weren't going well in my life. I had a lot that was going well in my life, right? So it's not like poor me. But did I open up space to be more critical of myself? Obsessive of myself? I don't know if that's true. It's just a thought I had as we're talking. Where did because I did like to be able to just put on clothes and you didn't worry about if it fit or not, or what it looked like, or
I don't even think
I suck something in, or
and I don't even think I looked in the mirror. Then and now I'm like, is it hanging out?
Well, I never used to have a scale, and then I bought a scale.
A
couple years ago because I realized one night I had pizza, I don't know where it was, and I put on 5 pounds overnight just for having pizza, which I never paid attention to before, but I'm sure it was salt and water and all that stuff. And then it became like a thing. You need to pay attention because what would happen to me is I would go from whatever weight I wanted, whatever look I wanted to be, really what size clothes felt could be. Next time I put on 20 pounds. And I wasn't catching it. And I don't think it's I had to have friends say, I put on 3 pounds. How can you tell? I don't know, it's because I'm taller than some of my friends, or I never really, but that's when I think that's probably for me, like I said, putting attention to something.
Yeah, that's what I think we're trying to find. And the point of this is just how did we shift into that being what
and
our
now
focus
there's
is?
probably, if I'm really honest, there's probably a fear of me not paying attention to it will get out of control.
Yes.
Which I'm sure would relate to other
Yes.
things in life. I don't pay attention to my kids or pay attention to my marriage or pay attention to my career. Does it go someplace I don't want to go? So where's this fine line of being aware,
Mm-hmm.
giving it breath? We're giving a lot of breath to being chubby or
Yep.
fat, whatever.
Whatever you want to call it.
Chubby works for me, but yeah, so fat, yeah. And it's really, and we need fat. Like our body needs fat
It
to
does.
operate. We need
It does.
cushion. So, like, so like we go through these extremes in life and judge each one as better or good. We were talking earlier about like judging experiences
Mm-hmm.
rather than just saying, "Oh, this is what I'm experiencing." So I'm interested. I'm going to be quiet for a moment and listen to you.
I think you really hit the nail on the head with that piece of like, we're in a place of expanding, growing, becoming more aware of that which is outside of us as well as that which is inside of us. Now, is there a correlation with that expansion in what my physical body is doing? It appears that way, but, and I say the but word, but
Yeah.
it just, is that actually the way it has to be? Or is that for me to see as a sign of expansion?
Yeah.
I get kind of caught in that little piece of like, but I know it does not have to.
It doesn't have to be
It
that
doesn't
way.
have to show in my life this way.
And I'm also looking at like,
And I don't want it to be an
Yeah.
excuse.
no.
You know, but it's like, why is that? Because I do feel like I've expanded exponentially in the last,
Yeah.
5 years even.
Mhm.
That it's like, wow.
Yeah.
So what could the correlation be? I don't know.
Part of it, I think,
Is there a correlation?
I'm just looking, because then it goes deep, and we're just, we're kind of focused on weight right now, but it's like I want to look at all the different obsessive thoughts you may have, or the continuing thoughts, the loops we go through.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had people, other healers, read or say, and you're like, well, you have extra weight on, so it protects your body organs and things like that.
I've heard that too. Mm-hmm.
Maybe. I guess it could be true. The heavier your belief, sometimes that's just heavy density in your body too.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what I was going to say, so that's not unusual. Well, I'll get it, people.
It'll come in.
Just wait a minute. But so what I was trying to say, what I want to say is, my inner image of myself doesn't match my outer presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this image of myself when I was 17 and 20 and 30, where I was a lot thinner, and things were just like, they just hung. I never had to think about it. It doesn't match my outer image right now of how I think of myself.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a disconnect. There's like I'll let you finish. There's an imbalance in my energy field somehow. There's an imbalance on how I think of myself.
And how you desire to think of yourself, or actually to present.
Yeah.
Is probably a more appropriate term.
Yeah.
It's how we want to present. But if it doesn't match, that inner thought doesn't match what's actually physically presenting right now,
Mm-hmm.
there's conflict.
There's a conflict.
There's a conflict. And why we create that, I'm not exactly certain. But when there's a conflict, then
Mm-hmm.
you don't have balance, and you don't have harmony, and you don't have all those other wonderful pieces flowing through you
Mm-hmm.
like they can. So where does the adjustment lie? Does the adjustment lie in the physicality, or does the adjustment lie in the thought of?
And what I'm hearing, it's like, because I'm not listening to my body, I'm not listening to my energy field. My energy field actually says you are 80% in harmony with your body,
Mm-hmm.
with the physical vehicle you have. There's another 20% where I'm trying to figure out, there's glitches in the field. But my mental mind says, you're looking at a size, you're looking at clothing,
Mm-hmm.
you're looking at these outside of they got it.
Yep.
So 20% of my world, I'm looking at an outside perception that's outside of me.
Mm-hmm.
How am I leading my life? It just is presenting in weight and clothing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So we go to outside sources. You're listening to podcasts, you're going to an outside source.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with it, but when it doesn't flow and balance, it isn't of value to you, then that's where you look. Why is this outside source interfering with my best life?
And why do I allow that small percentage of me to be the focus so often in so much of my day? Why do I allow so much focus to go to the 20% and not the 80%? It's just
insane, isn't it?
It's like
just
think,
insane.
why do I? And I really like how you said listening to my body, because I actually have been working on that, and I really enjoy listening to my body. Like, I don't just get up and pick something out for dinner anymore. It's more about, what am I called to eat today? What does it feel like today to eat? Maybe it's just maybe it's a snack day all day, and it's just snack. But I'm actually asking, I'm actually listening. And I found it really interesting because, I don't eat much for sweets. I'm just not a big sweet eater. Oh my goodness, I've been eating sweets lately. It's just been like, what's the deal? And I keep asking my body keeps saying, you can have one. You can have one bar. You can have one piece of pie. And it's like, oh, okay, I can.
Yeah.
But it's listening to my body instead of saying, ooh, that pie, that's
not a good thing.
395 calories per bite, whatever it is. Instead of focusing on that, it's focusing on, I can eat this because it's okay right now.
Yeah.
And that's what I think we can do in all parts of our life, whether it's working on a new friendship that you're trying to build and balance harmonies with each other in it, instead of being so pushy and thinking, I got to do it this way.
Yeah, or have an instantaneous result. And that's what I'm hearing too. Is like when you switch a thought, not just one thought. When you start to switch a thought process or a continual process, and switch your vibration frequency, it cements kind of in the energy field first, and it kind of lands in your physical body 9-10 months later. So as you just listen to your body or listen to your intuition, whether it's about your weight or anything else, your life, relationships or jobs or careers where you live, it may take time in the physical world because it has to slow down. The frequency has to slow down from where the thought was created. So for me, it's like, okay, I put on 5 pounds from pizza. I'm checking my scale. You're not giving it time to adjust to what my body's actually telling me to eat. And then you kind of like, oh, that didn't work. So you're recreating what you don't want. You're ignoring the change in the frequency
that you created.
And like, oh, let's go back down to this lower frequency because this it's that same thing. I need proof.
Yeah.
And you and I both work in the invisible world. It's like, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous for me to go back down into a dense scale and say, this scale tells me my worth.
Yes.
And not even my worth, that's probably a little bit accurate.
It's probably,
there's a little bit. Or this pair of jeans that used to fit in 30 years ago, I don't fit in now. Like, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It is ridiculous for me to not recognize the way energy works and consciousness works. To go back into the way it needs to be in this moment. Yeah, that probably is true. You can make things happen in this moment. I can't do that yet. I can't make
it is a possibility, but there are very, 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 very few people who can actually.
That's another podcast on the road.
Who have actually reached that point in time. But you're absolutely right. And it's like we can work on different skills that we have, that we might understand potentially right now. Like, I'm going to go with the intuitive piece. When somebody crosses my thought field, or I can just feel them in my energy sometimes, and it's just like I always try to make contact with that person within a very short amount of time. And I find that's really important for not only myself, but the person I'm contacting. That's a recognition on a energetic level that someone is looking for me, or I'm looking for them, or whatever it is, but there's a connection. So that's a very simple way of being able to honor and see those pieces. And it's a good way to start. if you're trying to figure out how do I operate in a different way.
Yeah, and it takes some practice. It takes some time. So this is like a little, it's not little, because it takes up a lot of my headspace, and takes a lot of your headspace. Things that we continue to think about that really are not what we want. It's allowing yourself the grace to say, I'm going to practice a new thought pattern. I'm going to practice a new perception. I'm going to practice a new perception. Mm-hmm. Because I know out here it's already shifted and changed, and every time I have the opposite thought, I put a hold on the vibrational change.
And that coming in.
And coming true, right?
Yep.
So I'm going to invite myself and invite you, and
me too.
You too, to release. It's like I want to release the, again, it's that word obsession. I want to release the attention to something that no longer I desire, and become aware of what I really want in its place. And just allow it to happen without going backwards. Mm-hmm. It's like when you plant a flower, you don't come out and say, geez, you didn't grow today. How come I planted a seed? Now I'm upset with you because you're not you're not a bush yet, or you're not a, It's like, no, I'm going to honor that process. I have to honor it within myself too. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Because we know it's energy. We know it's a thought.
Yes.
Yeah. Because we know there's people that have whiskey and a cigar and they live to 103 and they eat whatever they want.
Absolutely.
And there's, we go down that old road, there's stuff in our food that's very toxic to our body. We're holding on to that too, but that's not what we're talking about.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's energy and consciousness, yeah.
It's even, and I think I've talked about this before, it's like I have very intentionally put out there that I want to speak telepathically with people. Now, the person I'm speaking to has to be willing to speak with me telepathically. Yeah. And I have a few people that I can do that with. I'm actually trying to get my grandkids now. They're like, what do you mean, Grandma? And I'm like, no, can you hear what I'm saying? You have to open yourself up to hear what I'm saying. So
it's a great... that's a great skill.
Well,
it's a game right now.
It's a game, yes. But it's
technique.
One of those pieces of like, it's out here.
Yep.
I want to create that, but if I just don't take any action in creating that, or talk to someone and say, hey, can we practice talking? Can we practice telepathy? You can't come to that. You're sticking holes in it every time. Like, well, I sent a message and she didn't get it, or whatever it is. Yeah. So there's all those pieces that we kind of get to work with, and we get to create.
And don't get it reminds me like when I was trying to talk to horses. Yes. But it's the same thing, like you're saying.
Yes.
So I was trying to talk to horses one day, and it took me about 3 weeks, and finally the horse looked at me and said, well, what do you want? We're not used to people talking to us. They were not horses I knew. They weren't horses. They were kind of like the another horse person told me they're called lawn ornaments. They just put them on the pasture, and nobody ever has really much communication with them. Mm-hmm. Where I've talked to other horses or other animals, like, right away. So it's like, it's a participant knowing, and telepathically you can keep talking to, you and I can talk. Mm-hmm. We have to know, be tuned into it and aware of it, whereas you're teaching your kids how to do that. Mm-hmm. But somebody's not aware, eventually they do catch on.
Mm-hmm. And animals is a perfect way to work with it, and that's a cool example of they weren't ready to communicate.
They weren't even tuned in because they weren't used to somebody speaking to them. Mm-hmm. Oh, and then you think of like people that aren't used to people talking to them too, right? So I didn't mean to go, but it's like you recognize that's true verbally and telepathically.
Yeah, it is both ways.
Yeah.
And
which again, telepathically your thoughts, because it goes out whether you think there's a receiver or not. There's a receiver with your loving thoughts and your unkind thoughts. There's always a receiver. You may not hear the end of the conversation, but people accept what's in the environment, what's in the energy field,
and it goes.
So we get to choose what we put out there. Which is
why it's to be mindful of our thoughts. Yeah. And, sometimes they get away from me, and other times I can be like, no, not going there.
And we both have grandchildren, so we would never, the way we think about ourselves and our weight or whatever, that's what we're talking about. I would never intentionally put that type of pressure or thought on my grandchildren.
Never.
So then why, and if I think it once for me, I put it out there 1,000 times for other people to have that type of oppression against yourself, right?
Gosh.
It's like, that's like We know better, Renee.
But what just flashed in when you said that, it was like, we here in the United States have an obesity problem.
Oh my gosh, gigantic.
Well, what you just said,
think about
how that goes out and how people pick up on that. Think about the more focus we put on that as being a issue or a problem or something that needs to
and
be.
then that doesn't feel good, so then you comfort eat and you do all these, like, we do these backwards things because we don't like the way it feels.
Right. And we don't really understand how it isn't just affecting us.
It
affects everyone because it goes out into the energy field and people pick it up.
Yeah.
Oh my.
I knew that,
but it didn't really just, until you said it like that, I was like, oh.
And whatever the self-judgment is, it comes through food or other, substances or relationships. It is, there's no such thing as being non-telepathic.
Mm-hmm.
There's this thing of being unaware
of being
that you're picking up telepathically other people's thoughts.
Wow.
Bingo, right?
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ooh.
Wow. Well, there's some food for thought, people.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it, right? Is that what they say?
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Wow.
That's why being aware is so important. It is so important to be aware of what you're thinking because the buck does not stop here. It does not stop with us.
And it's a way that we can serve others by stopping these thought patterns that are detrimental, that aren't to the benefit of humanity.
And and I do it with my grandkids. I only have grandkids once a week, and the other ones I get to see as often as I can. But one of the way we start our day is we walk outside and we say, "Good morning, world, I'm here." And then we go through our names, or I'm here, and we do, I'm wise, I know myself, I trust myself, I'm beautiful. We add things to it, and that also goes out.
Mm-hmm. It does.
So it's like a megahorn. What do you call it? Megaphone, not a megaphone.
I got lost on megahorn. I was like, what?
I'm not going to go into why I don't get my words correct, but because I just get the words out eventually,
and that's good. Yeah. So that's cool because I do with my grandkids similar, but I will start to use the alphabet.
Oh,
so we'll be like, so today I am A, and they'll go, amazing or whatever words they come up with, and then we'll say and B, and then everybody gives it. And sometimes the words aren't in the what we would think of in the affirmative way. Mm-hmm. And then we get to talk about, well, why do you feel that way about this today?
Yeah.
And it helps open up a pattern of discussion for us to say, well, let's look at why. And let's see if we can change that belligerent to beautiful or whatever it is.
And the more we can have open conversations, right? Mm-hmm. Face to face, but then also be aware of the invisible conversations, right?
Yep.
But we're good.
Just ask us.
We said this was something we had to work through and talk through because we knew there was something there. We thought, we weren't the only ones with this pattern.
Yep.
The same pattern. And it is, it goes everywhere. So let's start changing our patterns.
Let's look at all of that.
People talk about putting on world peace meditations and having, a kind thought at the same time every day. That's not just making a moment in the day. That's just really put a lot of intention and practice into what we're thinking and feeling and what we're creating. Because we are we are creators. Came in to be a creator, you'll always be a creator.
Yes.
So,
wow. Well, there's food for thought, people.
Yeah, food for thought. Yeah. Wow, I think this was a good conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Renee.
Thank you.
And I want to comment too, we've been getting a lot of responses from people that you're enjoying the podcast.
Yes.
We really deeply appreciate it. Share the podcast. We'd love to have, again, if our words make sense to you, we'd like to have that shared. And we appreciate you, always.
That is true.
Thank you.
We are forever grateful to you, our listener. You inspire us to continue listening with our hearts.
to share what we know, and to expand love, peace, and joy within ourselves and others. Until next time, this is Christine Keeland
and Renee Keene. Be love, give love, and receive love.